Hey crew, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun scroll saw project video, we have another creative, mythological, and fantasy inspired design to bring to life over on the scroll saw. I've already got the pattern photocopied and printed out to its full size and attached to our two pieces of material with clear packing tape, and they are laying on the table saw in front of me. The design that I have selected to bring to life comes from an older issue of Creative Woodworks and Crafts Magazines. This is August 2006, so this magazine's almost 20 years old, so please be aware of that. Has a beautiful intarsia mountain and deer scene there on the cover. But the project we're going to be doing comes towards the back of the magazine, and it begins on page 78, and it says Rearing Pegasus. You guys know and are familiar with the Pegasus character, I hope. Popular character, popular creature in fantasy, mythology, folklore, fantasy-inspired books, and fairy tales and everything. But you can see here it is rearing up on its hind legs, flapping its beautiful, majestic wings like it is ready to take off. And you can see it has some intricate details here. And the design is not very big, so this is going to be a nice little miniature to cut out and make. And you could potentially give it to someone who has a fantasy-inspired bookshelf, who loves fairy tales and mythology and things like that. I know I love mythology and folklore. We've made some dragon designs in the past, we've made some fairy designs in the past, and now we're going to make a beautiful Pegasus design. The following page, page 79, has a nice little article on how to make and bring the project to life and a list of materials you may need. And I want to give a thanks and shout out to Misters Wayne and Jacob Fowler for the beautiful design here. It says here the pattern was by Jacob Fowler, and the one cut and finished and featured visually in the magazine was finished by Mr. Wayne Fowler. So thank you guys for that. The full-size pattern, as I said, is located in the full-size pattern pull-out section, and here you see the full design here. Not very big at all, just about smaller than the palm of my hand there, but it does have some intricate details. And as I said, the pattern is all ready to go, and we're going to be using some 1/2-inch poplar and 1/2-inch walnut. I think these two really complement each other once the clear coat is added and the natural grains and textures of the material are brought forward with the clear coat you apply for a finish. But I love the grain texture of poplar, and I love that earth brown tone of walnut, and I think walnut is an appropriate base to make for a project like this because it represents that earth tone, the dirt that the animal would be standing on, so to speak. But here is the pattern, and I do apologize if it's not coming up on camera. My printer out here in the workshop was running out of ink. I've already ordered some more, but I can follow the lines. I can see them pretty well, but I don't know how much they are translating onto the camera here. But there you see the beautiful design, and there you see the nicely shaped base there. And keep in mind, this is a tabbed and slotted design, so we're going to be cutting a hole in the base there, as you can see indicated, for the tab on the hoof of the Pegasus to go in. So we're going to take careful measurements while we are over at the scroll saw, and we will test fit and make sure everything is fitting properly and snugly, but not too tight because you don't want to break anything, and not too loose because you do of course want it to have some support. But I'm always happy to make and bring fantasy and mythological style patterns to life visually over here on the platform, because it just throws it back to when I used to love reading the classic Harry Potter series, and now I'm reading more and more books as the years go on. But since everything is pretty much prepped and prepared, let's move the camera over to the workbench so we can get the Seiko scroller's drill and drill all the pilot holes required so we can step over to the Rikon scroll saw and start making some sawdust. And over here on the workbench, we're taking the Seiko scroller's drill and a tiny drill bit and drilling out all of the pilot holes for internal cutting. And you'll note that I have a backer board behind the scroll saw work to prevent blowout of the pilot holes on the reverse side. But after all the pilot holes are drilled, we'll move over to the Rikon scroll saw and begin scrolling. And as always, I'm beginning with some of the central details and working my way outwards. For all of the scrolling on this project, I'll be using a number 5 Ultra reverse tooth blade, and it will cut through both pieces of material we are using in this project exceptionally well with minimal chip out. And it does feel like sometimes it takes longer to rethread the blade through the pilot hole and retension it than it does to do the actual bit of scroll saw work, but all of those small details are going to add up to make a beautiful portrait once we are complete. I'll soon be switching to a closer up perspective to give you guys a better vantage point of some of those smaller cuts we are doing. This is a very straightforward project, but I do feel like it has several different uses and a variety of display options that we'll talk about as we are closing the video. And here on the close-up view, you can see how small some of those internal cuts are, and this project does have a lot of those tight V-turns, and you can see how we are getting through those by going in one side of the V, and then we'll come back and cut into the waste wood and go in and taper the V point down to as fine a point as the pattern calls for. And again, I do apologize if the pattern is not showing up well on camera here. Again, the printer in the shop was running out of ink, but I already have bought some more for it. So all future patterns should again be dark and clear. But we are just going through here, and as always, we are taking our time and letting the blade do the work. I feel like poplar is a very underrated material that does not get talked about much in the scroll saw woodworking world. You guys know it's my favorite material to make the custom compound cut keychains out of. We are now doing the final internal cut on the Pegasus piece, and then we'll have to go to the walnut piece after this to cut out the slot that will accept the tab and the Pegasus foot. Do a quick test here, and then it'll be time to release all the pieces from the waste wood. And again, that number 5 Ultra reverse tooth blade scrolls through the material exceptionally well. If you guys like what you're seeing, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. I'd really appreciate the support. And if you guys would like to find this pattern, it's available in that older issue of the now discontinued Creative Woodworks and Crafts magazines. I'll hold it up once again as we get ready to close the video. But we are coming around here on that long outside perimeter cut, and we will be complete with all of the scroll saw work on this project. And over here on the workbench, we'll carefully remove the pieces from the waste wood. And I hope it goes without saying that the Pegasus piece is very fragile. But now it'll be time for sanding with 180 grit Klingspor Woodworking Shop sandpaper in the vibrating palm sander. And you can be a little bit more aggressive with sanding the base, but you of course have to be very careful with sanding the actual scroll saw work to make sure that you do not damage or break anything. But after everything was sanded, I opted to leave everything natural so we could go straight to the glue up and assembly with medium grade CA glue and activator from Klingspor Woodworking Shop. And the glue basically dries and bonds instantly, but I still like to leave a project sitting for around 5 minutes to make sure that it is completely dried and cured. And while we were waiting for the glue to set up, I took the waste wood and I threw it in the wood stove to continue generating heat on this cold day. But then it was time for a finish, and for a finish I used several coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss, and it really made the grain textures pop and give it a nice glossy appearance. When it dried, the project was complete. And here we have the completed mythological Pegasus design, cut out completely over on the scroll saw from start to finish, and it has some beautiful, very fragile and delicate details in it, but I think it finished up so beautiful with all of those tedious, intricate details. I want to once again thank Mr. Wayne and Jacob Fowler for the beautiful and creative design featured in the old Creative Woodworks and Crafts magazines. Once again, as always, I will hold that magazine up as we get ready to wrap up and close this video. It took me around 45 minutes to scroll this project out completely from start to finish. I feel like poplar is a very underrated material to use over at the scroll saw. It cuts so smooth, just like butter over at the scroll saw, especially the 1/2 inch thickness like this is, and it finishes up so nice once you apply the clear coat to it. As you can see in the lights of the workshop, how the Rust-Oleum clear gloss we added as a finish really stand out and pop. And I like how the dark walnut we used for the base, that's also 1/2 inch in thickness, also popped once we applied the clear gloss, and it brought the two pieces together beautifully, the poplar and the walnut. But really, really cool. You can tell, as I said, this project is not big at all. Sits comfortably in the palm of my hand and can sit comfortably and easily on a shelf, desk, or countertop without taking up too much space or real estate. But again, it is a very fragile project because of all the material we took out. So as I always say with scroll saw projects, of course, take your time and let the blade do the work and be as loyal as you can be to the cut line. Of course, Pegasus belonged to the legendary Bellerophon, I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly, in Greek and mythology folklore, who tamed the legendary beast once he was given the golden bridle, and then he could ride it into battle. And then some stories depict that Pegasus later belonged to Zeus up on Mount Olympus, and he was the lightning bolt bearer for that legendary character. So it has a lot of history with one individual character. Now I want to talk about different uses for this design, and in my mind's eye, I always try to think outside of the box when it comes to scroll saw patterns and designs, and when I look at them and when I'm making them, and I can see so many different uses for this one individual pattern. Now of course, as always, you can cut it out to this size if you want to, and it would look just like this one and be a great little piece to sit again on a shelf, desk, or countertop. Or you could enlarge the design if you didn't feel comfortable cutting out those smaller details, and if you enlarged the design and cut it out of maybe inch or 3/4 inch thick material, keep in mind that'd be a slower cut over at the scroll saw. With the thicker material, you could go in and fill it with epoxy resins. If you wanted to add a horn on it to make it a unicorn, you could totally do that. And if you also wanted just a rearing horse up on its hind legs, you could of course take away the wings. So options and versatility for each and every pattern you come across. And I also feel like with the nature of this design, you could cut out another one and have it facing this way and have two fantasy and mythological inspired bookends for a fantasy bookshelf. So there's another option. You could do a different base there. So really cool. And of course, you could always go in with stains if you wanted to stain stuff, and if you were good with craft paints, you could go in and paint everything. I know the legendary horse is supposed to be white, so it would also probably be good cut out of a light maple and then clear coated. So again, just options and versatility. Now because we are still in the cooler months here in my area, the back side has not been clear coated yet, so you can see how it basically looks, you know, without the clear gloss on the back. It'll dry completely overnight. I can flip it over and then clear coat this side, but then the face side, the presented side, so to speak, has that nice glossy sheen and texture in the lights of the workshop. And once again, the full size pattern, as I said, is not big at all. So there you see the original line drawing. Again, I said at the beginning of the video that the printer out here in the workshop was running out of ink, but I could still see, to my eyes, you know, how to cut everything out. So I'm sorry if the lines didn't appear properly visually good over here on video today, but there is the full size design. And again, you could make it bigger. If you have access to a laser engraver in your garage or workshop, you could scan that pattern in and import it to the laser for laser engraving purposes. So again, always try to think outside of the box with each and every design you come across. Here is the one that is featured in the magazine visually. So there you see their visual representation of it. And then you have the one that we made today visually over here on the YouTube platform. But we are going to look at the magazine once again. And it is Creative Woodworks and Crafts Magazine, August 2006. So right at 20 years old this magazine is, and I'm so thankful to still have it in my possession, and also have the full-size pattern pull-out sections to where we can go back to these older issues. Remember last spring we found a huge backlog of these magazines, as well as scroll saw Woodworking and Crafts Magazines by Fox Chapel Publishing. So I'm thankful to have these in hand out here in the workshop where I can go back and select projects like the one we made today for future videos to teach with over here. And again, the design began on page 78. And again, thank you to Mr. Jacob and Wayne Fowler for the beautiful and creative design. And the following page, page 79, has a nice little detailed article with photos on how to make and bring the project to life. And they actually suggest any white or figured hardwood, box elder, or maple. So again, I already said maple to make this project out of. Again, Pegasus is usually depicted as a pure white horse, kind of like a unicorn, but really, really cool. This would make a great gift to give to a loved one, a significant other that loves the fantasy and mythology and everything. And again, you could actually make these for a craft fair, a vendor market, a farmer's market. If you have items like this that are good sellers in your area, I don't know how they would do in my area. Not a big fantasy area in my area, so to speak, if that makes any sense. But again, I was happy to make it and step back into that world of mythology and folklore and make this beautiful and creative design and bring it to life visually over here on the YouTube platform for you guys to hopefully view and enjoy, and hopefully give you an idea to make a project like this or similar out in your garage or workshop. I hope along today's video, from beginning, from the intro now as we are closing the video, that you guys may have picked up a tip, trick, or tidbit. And if you happen to be new to the channel, hopefully you'll click that subscribe button and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as all my social media feeds will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one, and remember, crew, if I can make it or do it, so can you guys. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, and I'll see you guys real soon.